The Houston Texans have their eyes on JK Dobbins. Could he be the ultimate backup plan for banged up Joe Mixon, or is he the dependable veteran the Texans need to lighten Mixon's load during the regular season? Either way, it sounds like a win-win. Let's see if Dobbins can bring the Thunder to H-Town.
You are Locked On Texans, your daily podcast on the Houston Texans. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Battle Red Nation, Bulls on parade from H-Town to your town. Today's pod is for Texan fans all around. I'm your Locked On Texans host, Texans Credential Media member, and football analyst John Hickman. On today's show, Texans have interest in JK Dobbins. Could adding him to the running back group do something for that C word? What's that C word, y'all? Competition. Not comp time, right? Not comp time, but competition. Joe Mixon is currently in a walking boot, according to Aaron Wilson. And I think it's time for us to revisit the conversation that I've been having all offseason since before the draft. The Texans need to take relieving him of carries seriously. It ain't going to hurt nobody. Actually, it's going to help Joe Mixon and his health. And according to most people, the Texans have had an underwhelming offseason. But I kind of view it differently. I see this offseason as an underrated offseason. Thank you to all of our first-time listeners, second-time listeners, third-time listeners, about its fourth time. You're not a listener no more. You're not even a guest. You are family. Thank you for making the Locked On Texans your first listen of the day, for being an everydayer from the Texans Himalaya, and being a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It has been a crazy 24, 48 hours for the NFL. The league is keeping the tush push. The Texans voted to ban the tush push despite positive words and support from head coach DeMeco Ryans. So could we see some Graham Mertz tush push in 2025? Kind of curious to see how they use the rookie and what his role would be, if any, for the Houston Texans. But we lead off today's Texans talk with the Houston Texans and free agent running back JK Dobbins have had some conversations about coming to Houston, a contract, but there's been distance on both parties, both sides of the game, in terms of salary. But clearly, there is interest there for the Houston Texans to bring in JK Dobbins, the Houston native. Grew up in LaGrange. He bounced back from the sprained MCL injury during the 2024 season that sidelined him for a stretch of games, but he did finish out the season and the playoffs in 13 games, and this is the positive for Dobbins. 13 games for 2024, Dobbins rushed for 905 yards on 195 attempts and 9 rushing TDs in 4 seasons. He's had seasons of 4.6, 5.7, and 6 yards per carry, also in 4 seasons, and technically 5. He missed the 2021 season with an injury that kept him out the entire year. But in 4 years, he's only played in 37 games, starting in 21 of those games due to his long list of injury history. JK Dobbins with the Chargers in 2024, he had just under a 70 pass blocking grade for PFF. That makes him 4th for running backs. 39 missed tackles in 2024, 22nd. 31.8% breakaway run rate, 10th in the NFL, and 27 runs of 10 or more yards, 13th in the NFL for running backs. The questions for JK Dobbins. The numbers are great, and when healthy, he's great, but the questions for JK Dobbins and a possible future with the Houston Texans. Number one, is he worth it? Right now, the distance is on the salary. Number two, is this an indictment on the trust level or perception of Dameon Pierce, especially if Mixon isn't a go at some point during this season? And 3, listen, would you rather have Houston invest in another position of need rather than negotiate with JK Dobbins? What does worth it actually look like for Dobbins if Cam Akers' contract for Houston in 2024 was a little bit over $1 million for 1 year? Obviously, the number is a base point for the Houston Texans to start at. The $1 million that they gave to Cam Akers, I think that's a good base to start at. But Dobbins is coming off a good year with the Chargers, even though he missed time. So he's going to command a little bit more. Plus, he's the better player. He's the better running back. When we try to gauge whatever his worth is, I think it's twofold, guys, Texan fans out there. Houston has roughly $7 million in available salary cap right now, maybe even less. So does a fair and reasonable price point not outweigh if Houston and Nick Caley trust their ability to run the ball if Joe Mixon goes down? Remember, I mean, they drafted Woody Marks. He's been one of those guys that a lot of fans are kind of excited to see. Maybe not right now, but more so down the line. And I think because of that, that's also the perspective of the coaching staff. We didn't bring him in for him to be the guy right now, maybe a guy in a role, but not the guy. Right now, according to Aaron Wilson, the guy, the Texans guy, our guy, Joe Mixon is currently in a walking boot. Don't know when that's going to come off. The Houston Texans operating in a championship window. They need all hands on deck. OTAs start soon, and they want to make sure that they have guys on the field practicing, getting used to this new offensive scheme. Now, Joe Mixon is a vet. I do think he's going to be fine. Joe is going to be Joe. Joe was Joe last year. Joe will continue to be Joe Mixon, but they want to make sure that they have guys in that room that's available. So this is how I view Dobbins in Houston. Number one, he will be the second best running back in Houston right now, bar none. Let's not even get into the scenarios, the if, ands, and what's about it. If JK Dobbins signs a contract with the Houston Texans, based off of what we know, based off of NFL experience, JK Dobbins will be the Texans' second best running back right now. He's also a solid pass blocker out of the backfield, especially from inside pressure, picking up inside pressure. This is where the Houston Texans failed. This is where, if I'm Nick Caley, if I'm D'Amico Ryans, if I'm Nick Caserio, general manager, I'm looking at, okay, the things that we lacked last year, we're bringing in some of these guys. What can they do to kind of ease our mind on the failures of 2024? Pass blocking from every standpoint, the offensive line, the tight end group, right? The running back group, picking up stunts, blitzes, and pressure from the inside. All of that was bad last year for Houston. Do I think Dobbins is, phenomenal? I wouldn't use that word, but he's more than serviceable as a pass blocker out of the backfield. That is from an eye test, and again, a PFF grade for you analytic lovers out there, right under 70. He'd fit the power gap running scheme and also can have some impact in the zone runs. He's a great runner. He has good vision attacking the hole. The possibility of adding JK Dobbins could be looked at as an indictment on Dameon Pierce. And I'm going to throw Dare into this because I'm a firm believer in, at some point, if your niche is only special teams, then coaches should be able to find a guy that can replace that and also coach a guy up to do a little bit more. Now, Dare came in clutch for Houston at times last season, but as of right now, where do we rank Dare in terms of the better options for Houston? Would you say Joe, Damian, Dare? Would you rather have that and Woody Marks? Or would you rather have Joe, Damian, JK Dobbins, and Woody Marks? So it could be looked as an indictment on Dameon Pierce or singled out, Dare Ogunbowale. But I'm going to go the opposite way and say the possibility of adding JK Dobbins should be looked at as an indictment altogether on getting the entire running back group to a better place and raising that floor, especially considering, and I've talked about this here on the show time and time again, just giving Joe Mixon the opportunity that he deserves to kind of take a break early in the season. They're going to count on him down the road. Houston traded for him last offseason. They traded a 7th-round pick for him. They obviously wanted him because right after they did that, they gave him an extension. I believe it was a 3-year extension. So he's a part of their championship window. The running back age is going to catch up. The years are going to catch up. So you want Joe Mixon to be as fresh as possible down the stretch when you're ready to play playoff football. And what J.K. Dobbins brings as a vet, 5 years in the NFL, just coming off playing in the playoffs. Excuse me. He's also a guy that's been on a playoff team every year since he's got in the NFL. He could be what Houston needs. The only red line to that would be I don't want to jeopardize the salary cap down the road. And if they're having a distance on what he should get right now, then maybe Houston looks around the league and say who else is going to be available, because I don't think this roster, how it's currently put together, will be the final form of it. And Houston could use some of those funds down the road and guys start to get cut to upgrade at certain positions, of which one of those positions I think will be keeping an eye on who's going to be some of the available guards out there. But I'll say this. JK Dobbins is good. Bringing him in is good. However, the conversations remain. Would you rather have Houston use those funds to upgrade another position, or are you okay with just saying, you know what, this is who we need right now to give us a complete running back room? So I'll bring that conversation back on the other side of the break. We got more Texan talk, because with Joe Mixon in the boot, is this a long-term concern, or no panic necessary or needed? More Locked On Texans on today's show. However, Texan fans, listen, some of us are smart business owners. Some of us are always looking for the next best opportunity. For you small business owner, when the clock hits 5, your business is always on your mind. For you guys that are out there that are always looking for the next best opportunity, I got a place where you both can meet and get the best of both worlds, and that's LinkedIn. For our small business owners, when you clock out, LinkedIn clocks in. For the guys that are out there, for the Texan fans that are out there that are always looking for the next best opportunity to make sure that they are competitive in the work field, LinkedIn has exactly what you need. They have opportunities that'll pop up each and every day. Once you check it, they got something for you in your position, in your field, and also in similar fields as well. And LinkedIn makes it easy to post your job for free, share it with a network, and get qualified candidates out there. This is where it goes hand in hand, because for you small business owners that are out there posting it, you'll find the qualified candidates. And if you're a Locked On Texan listener and viewer, if you are a Texan fan, I have no doubt that you are one of those qualified candidates. You do all of that all in one place. Plus, you can post on there like social media, post all of your promotions, your good deeds that you've done at work. LinkedIn is really where it's at for professionals. And also, LinkedIn's new feature can help you write job descriptions and then quickly get your job out in front of the right people with deep candidate insight. And here's a pro tip. Add the hashtag hiring frame to your profile to double your reach to qualified candidates. No wonder 72% of small businesses say LinkedIn has helped them find high quality hires. So post your job for free, or go search for a job for free. In this market, everybody needs a job, right? So even if you're handing one out or you're looking for one, it's all free on LinkedIn, right? So visit linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. We are locked in on the Locked On Texans podcast, your daily Texans talk. And the conversation will continue about whether or not JK Dobbins and the Houston Texans, is that a marriage that should take place, right? And I had an opportunity to talk to some of you guys on social media about your thoughts. And I said, listen, Mixon, DP, or Woody Marks, the rookie, or Mixon, Dobbins, and Woody Marks? Who do you want? Some of you guys were really big on DP. My man Derek Giles, 11, DP in this scheme. Give me DP. And a lot of people are really anticipating what Dameon Pierce can do in this presumed scheme. And I told you guys a couple of days ago, go check out Ramondre Stevenson from the New England Patriots. My man, Mr. Optimistic. It could be Mixon, Dobbins, Marks, and DP. And I'm in favor of that. I just talked about that in the first segment. I'm really in favor of that. Read one, teach one. Give me Dobbins all day. And if Chubb is available for the right price, he signed him as well. Mixon, Dobbins, and Marks. So a lot of you guys kind of on the fence. Mixon, Dobbins, Marks, Mixon, Damian Marks. However, we know that the Houston Texans need to make an upgrade or make a move at that position. And the question right now is this really a position of need for Houston? I'm going to say yes. Right now, Houston has made it clear that they like where their offensive line is. Let's stop talking about it. Let's not talk about the offensive line until we get to training camp, until them big boys put on the pads and they can go up against a re-signed Foley Fadakowski, Daniil Hunter, and Will Anderson. Let's not talk about the offensive line no more because Houston is set. If they didn't feel that way, they wouldn't have just drafted one offensive lineman in the rookie Ariante Ursery. Houston brought back Miles Bryant, so that gives me a little comfort at least of what they have in that cornerback room. They did a really good job in investing into the wide receiver room. They did a really good job in investing in the tight end room. They are sticking to their guns on this whole competition narrative. And now Houston has about 7 to 8 guys in their running back group that'll compete this summer in training camp. Dameon Pierce, Joe Mixon, who, if there's any player that may not need to be out there a lot actually getting carries, it's probably Joe Mixon. But Dameon Pierce, Dario Ogunbowale, British Brooks, Jawar Jordan, JJ Taylor, the rookie Woody Marks. They got some guys in their room that can compete. But what I don't want to see, and this is for Dameon Pierce and everybody, but specifically for Dameon Pierce, because I do think he'll be a good fit. What I don't want to see for Pierce is another preseason like he had last season, where Houston didn't really put him out there and showcase him like they should have, where he only touched the ball 8 times in preseason and didn't have a moment where any of us were confident in his ability to relieve Joe Mixon when and if needed. And at the same time, we'd hear about the coaching staff confidence in Dameon Pierce, but it wasn't obvious on the field when we go look at the play. That'd be unfair to, I think, Dameon Pierce and the Houston Texans as they operate in a championship window. But whether it's Dameon Pierce, who comes with his own injury history, as he missed several weeks in 2024 due to injury, whether it's the rookie Woody Marks or the possibility of another running back like JK Dobbins, the fact remains Joe Mixon is number 4. Joe Mixon is number 4 on the most rushing attempts by a running back in the last 5 years list with just over 1,100 attempts. Guys, it is time to, oh wow, breaking news. Wow. Indianapolis Colts owner and CEO Jim Irsay has passed away at 65. Rest in peace to Jim Irsay. This is happening at the time of this recording. My apologies for breaking up Texans talk. But the fact remains and condolences to his family. Excuse me. I do not want to pass over that. Condolences to the Irsay family. The fact remains for Joe Mixon, he's going to need that break, guys. He's going to need that break. Let me tell you why it's different from a Derrick Henry and a Joe Mixon, because Derrick Henry is number 1 on their list. And the offense that Derrick Henry has played in has always centered around Derrick Henry since high school, where he was getting carries. He was getting like 400 carries a year, which is kind of like child endangerment, if you ask me. But anyways, on a joking note, for Joe Mixon, I don't think he has the luxury of playing behind an offensive line, at least not to this point, where he's not getting a lot of those hits in the backfield, where he's getting more free opportunities to get to the second level without being touched like some of the other running backs on their list. And that's where it is starting to get concerning. Like I mentioned, Aaron Wilson, one of the better reporters out here in the city of Houston, does a good job covering the Houston Texans and the NFL altogether, mentioned that he is in a boot right now. It shouldn't be looked at as serious, but my concern is, okay, it may not be serious right now, but there should still be caution. The Houston Texans should still operate with caution because this isn't Joe Mixon's last year on his contract. He has a couple of seasons left. Houston views Joe Mixon like a catalyst type of piece. Like he's going to be the guy that can get us over the hump from that position. Remember, Joe Mixon was the first running back to hit 1,000 since Carlos Hyde some seasons ago. Remember how many times Joe Mixon put the game away for the Houston Texans because of his ability to be a bell cow for Houston last year in that offense down the stretch, where they were able to hand him the ball because that was the only thing working offensively. That was it. Joe is also a back that has suffered many hits in the backfield before he's able to get to the line of scrimmage. All of those things should be put on Front Street, put on the table, from Nick Caserio to D'Amico Ryans to the entire offensive coaching staff, including Danny Beard, Nick Caley, the assistant offensive coaches, and they should talk about what the contingency plan is. I think obviously it's going to be Woody Marks. So that could change in the future, of course. But not only the contingency plan to eliminate some of those concerns for Joe Mixon, who will be in Houston for some time, but also the right now plan, which is why bringing in a player like JK Dobbins, who is an experienced running back. He's also an experienced running back in a two-back system. He's also somebody that I don't think Houston will lose a lot of, not experience, but if you replace Mixon and put Dobbins on the field, and of course, Joe Mixon is a little bit more experienced playing behind a not so good offensive line, but according to the competition talk we've heard, and D'Amico Ryans, they'll have a better offensive line, but you wouldn't necessarily lose much. The tape is there, the film is there, and again, he's a guy that has ran the ball for 6 yards per carry, 5.7 yards per carry. This past year, which was his best year in the NFL, games yards wise and games played, 4.6 yards per carry, nearly 900, a little bit over 900 yards, right? So he's a guy that, now that I see that Joe Mixon is in that boot, the concerns of what will Houston do to make sure that if Joe Mixon isn't available, who can they lean on? Because case in point, when Joe went down after the Chicago Bears game, there was no Dameon Pierce because he was also out. The Houston Texans had to lean on Cam Akers and Dario Ogunbowale, and that wasn't necessarily a recipe for success. I wouldn't call it a recipe for disaster, but it was a recipe for this is just stale. Like if you would have got that play, you probably would have sent it back and said, hey, you know what, man? I'm going to order something that I'm familiar with because there's no flavor in this dish. And for Houston, they had to wait until Joe Mixon to come back to get some flavor. So I like the idea of JK Dobbins here in Houston. I do think the running back position is probably the position right now that could use another body to bring that competition to that group for you to see who the best man is. I do want Houston to be able to say, we're going to put the best group together, regardless of relationships, regardless of draft status, regardless of anything. And I also want Houston to say, outside of what you could do for me on special teams, what can you do for me in other areas just in case I need you? And this is where we've seen all offseason both Nick Caserio and D'Amico Ryans assess the roster from 2024 and look ahead and say, this is an area that we need to make sure that we have trust in by improving it. And also, when we get down to training camp and preseason, we're going to put those guys out there for real to make sure they're doing the things that we are expecting of them. Now, as I mentioned, Houston, Nick Caserio and D'Amico Ryans kind of reviewing everything that they've done this offseason. Some people are still not happy with the Houston Texans moves. You can't please everybody, but I'm here to tell you the Texans have had an underrated offseason. So we got more Texan talk on this Thursday edition of the Locked On Texans podcast. Welcome back, Battle Red Nation, Bulls on Parade. We will have Memorial Day this weekend, and that's going to be fun. So you guys will be out there with your family and friends having a good time. And I know you're going to make the Locked On Texans your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out Locked On NFL Scouting as training camps get closer and moves are being made. Host Kyle Krabs and Joe Marino will make you the most informed NFL fan this offseason. Find Locked On NFL Scouting on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Now, for some people, it's not enough. No matter what the Houston Texans have done, it's not enough. Do I agree with the people that have said wait until training camp to really assess the offensive line? Absolutely. 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 You guys are 1,000% correct. However, the notion that Houston hadn't had a good offseason, like I've seen some of the offseason grades, I've seen some of the draft grades, I've seen the D's grades, the D grades, the grade of D's, no matter how flippant that sounds horrid. But I've seen some of the unfavorable discussions surrounding the Houston Texans. Guys, this was a team that did take advantage of a weak division last season. Let me not skip around that. But this was a team in 2024 that did beat the Buffalo Bills. They beat some good teams in 2024. They've had good games in 2024. And the games that we saw the Houston Texans lose in 2024, for the Houston Texans, it came down to, what's going on with your offense, Detroit, Green Bay, so on and so forth. Like that was the case. And so when you look at the underrated decisions and moves the Houston Texans made this offseason, I can't state enough how important it was for them to get both Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel. Two playmakers on the outside and inside, guys that can come in with the expectation of, those guys will be day one playmakers for Houston. I can't state enough how in this league, coaching matters. Coaching matters. Coaching in franchises where player goes and who a player is coached by, positional group and coordinator, a lot of that matters. You've heard stories, horror stories from NFL players all the time where they talk about, man, I have this coach and this coach didn't know how to coach at all. This coach was on the coaching staff because of the relationship with X, Y, and Z. This coach had me out there doing things that didn't make sense, not only for myself, but my entire group, and things that I wasn't comfortable with. That is something in the NFL. So now you get a guy, not only in Cole Popovich, but where Nick Caley is coming from. And again, that's another question mark. I'm not going to skip over it. But now you get a guy like those two guys that can come in and be on the same page, which of all of the dysfunction the Houston Texans dealt with last year, having a coach not on the same page as the rest of the coaching staff, there's not going to be a formula for success for that. You're not going to find too many, whether it's offensive, defense, you're not going to find too many sides of the ball that are going to succeed with that. When you have multiple voices in a unit, in group meetings, and that with the multiple voices, the one voice that should be reigning overall can't rally the troops, can't get the guys to do what needs to be done. That's from a coaching perspective. And also, I do think it was a smart decision to move on from Laremy Tunsil from a franchise perspective, from a financial perspective. But I'm also on record by saying I thought that was a smart decision to move on from Laremy Tunsil, because even with Laremy Tunsil, who was your highest paid offensive tackle in the NFL, if not one, maybe two, he didn't raise the level of the rest of the room. The rest of the room, the other four guys on that offensive line didn't look good. So you look at Houston just saying, you know what, we're going to scrap it all. We're going to do a quick reinvestment of some of the players that are already here by changing coaches. So that coach can get the best out of our young guys. We're going to bring in some vets that can compete, and we're going to draft the youngin. Houston had a very underrated offseason because the moves that were made, number one, it didn't come with moves with names that blow guys away. No real blow away move. Maybe here in Houston for the Houston media, for the Houston Texans fans, that cover this team each and every day. But on the outside looking in, the national media, there was not a move that made those guys go, wow, okay, right? And for some, they would rather harbor on to Bobby Slowick was the scapegoat. Now, whether you agree with that or not, the fact remains that, hey, they felt like he needed to go, and that was the decision that they made. So because of the names or lack thereof that Houston didn't bring in, the view of Houston right now is, oh, man, it's underwhelming. So much so that I'm seeing guys pick the Colts again to win the division, and I'm thinking to myself, well, Houston they upgraded. They upgraded. The defense is still the defense, and they brought in C.J. Gardner-Johnson. So you look at that unit being better. They brought in 2 studs at receiver. They're getting guys back in certain positions, right? And you're also going to get a year 3 of C.J. Stroud. Yes, this will be year 1 in a new system, but you just look at a year 3 in terms of a mental perspective and a physical perspective in terms of approaching the game. That changes a lot. You'll get that playbook, and you'll go through that playbook, and that playbook will become a part of their routine, honestly. But from a mental perspective, for CJ, and we hadn't talked about this a lot, just going to the line of scrimmage and said, ooh, all right. Okay, we got a double mug right here. I've seen this front before. I've seen this look before. All right. This linebacker's he's gonna bounce out. This guy's he's gonna shoot in a blitz. So I have time to read this and get this. I need to know, and I know the play. So from a mental perspective, just breaking it all down. This is year 3 for CJ. That's what we want to see. Of course, him getting more stuff on his plate to be able to call plays and everything. That's great. But Houston absolutely had a very underrated offseason because offensive coordinator and play calling issues, they fix it. He's out the door. Offensive line, coaching and issues, they fix it. He's out the door. No Stephon Diggs, no Tank Dell. The lack of wide receiver depth, they fixed it. They drafted 2 rookies. They also brought in Braxton Berrios. They brought in some vets, Justin Watson, who got some praise from D'Amico Ryans. Houston has had an underrated offseason that I think Texan fans need to be proud of. And I can't wait to talk about this roster throughout the summer because I think, again, I gave the ceiling for this team 12 wins with a swing game against the Kansas City Chiefs so that can put them at 13 wins. I think this roster will be good. I think that it's going to take a little moment to get the ball rolling, but once it clicks, it's going to click. Thank you guys for watching today's episode of the Locked On Texans podcast. Just do me a favor. Subscribe, like, and comment on YouTube and wherever you listen to your podcast. Follow me on Twitter at John_Hickman12. Until next time, ladies and gents, Bulls on parades across the nation, Battle Red Nation. Peace.